When examining the media side of the attack on Iran and the war that has spread across the Middle East, where does one begin? With the principal actors, the U.S., Israel, and the Islamic Republic, or the enablers, the American news outlets reporting on the story and sometimes driving it? The Nepo Shah in waiting, Reza Pahlavi.
Finish the job.
And the other voices from the diaspora egging the Americans and the Israelis on. And, lest we forget, the West Bank. A Palestinian journalist's take on the Israeli settlers and soldiers, and what journalism there is up against. One week into the war that the U.S. and Israel launched against Iran, the casualties now include the Islamic Republic's leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, more than 150 schoolgirls in the southern part of the country, as well as Iran's relationship with the Gulf states and the very notion of international law. The Middle East has been engulfed with missiles crisscrossing in the sky. In Washington, the messaging on this war, the justifications offered, keep changing. Even mainstream media outlets in the U.S., the corporate kind, that have reliably served as tools of public persuasion in previous American wars, have been struggling with that. So they focus on the tactics rather than the strategic side of this, the cause. Anti-war voices are almost completely absent. Iranian representation has been skewed. After his repeated promises that he would be America's peace president, Donald Trump has now bombed 8 countries from South America to Africa and the Middle East. And however hard he and his partner in war crimes, Benjamin Netanyahu, spin it, that is a tough contradiction to sell to Americans, let alone the rest of the world.
This is a war in search of a strategy.
Eliminate the intolerable threats posed by this sick and sinister regime.
Aimed at toppling the regime 1 hour.
It is time to end the Islamic Republic.
Destroying the nuclear program another hour.
We have to prevent Iran from getting nukes.
Creating an Iranian democracy or something the other hour. There is no coherent strategy, and you can see that's reflected in the media coverage of it.
Because in the absence of a strategy, how do you frame a coherent message through the news media? Do you try what Donald Trump did and present yourself as the savior of the Iranian people as you rain missiles down on them?
When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take.
That's a tough sell. Or do you take the Israeli approach and hit them with an AI-modified version of Benjamin Netanyahu, telling Iranians in Persian that freedom awaits?
ما شرایط رو برای مردم شجاع ایران فراهم خواهیم کرد تا خود رو از زنجیرهای استبداد رها کنند.
But on the messaging, the U.S. and Israel can at least count on this, that many of the messengers in the American media are there to help.
Why is attacking U.S. military bases abroad justified?
But because they are attacking us.
I think that question from the NBC anchor is really the embodiment of how U.S. media can't do a professional and objective job when it comes to foreign policy reporting.
And now Iran is firing missiles at Arab countries. And, I mean, if any other country did that, I think there'd be a huge hue and outcry. And
they do a good job on domestic issues. They hold truth to power and question the highest office in the country. But when it comes to U.S. foreign policy, especially in the Middle East, especially with Israel, U.S. mainstream media, the old guards, the gatekeepers, can't do an objective job.
The language which we often see in the Western media, particularly the U.S., around Iran, is generally framed in a certain way. Iran is Nazi Germany, essentially. Now, this is not to defend the Iranian regime by any means, but the fact is that the majority of people who are being killed at the moment are Iranian civilians. But ultimately, much of the Western press demonize them without even speaking to them. And this was happening before Iran for 2.5 years, genocide in Gaza and Israeli war crime.
The similarities to the Western media's coverage of the Gaza genocide are unmistakable. Take that missile strike on the school in southern Iran that killed more than 160 civilians, most of them schoolgirls aged 7 to 12, an attack the UN called a grave violation of humanitarian law. At the time of this recording, neither the U.S. nor Israel had owned up to that attack. which apparently targeted a nearby barracks of the IRGC, Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Because we don't actually know for a fact yet what happened with that school.
The disinformation playbook the Israelis have used in Gaza is now being applied in Iran, and too many Western media outlets have played along.
If this would have happened anywhere else, it would have been on the front cover of every news outlet. And the way that it was reported was that we can't verify what happened.
The reports that this may have been an IRGC missile that fell short need to be taken seriously.
Really touting this lie that the IRGC has somehow done this themselves. And we saw this exact same pattern happen in Gaza. And that is what is really just dizzying, the same lazy, flattened reporting that we saw in Gaza when it comes to the war on Iran.
The coverage has been very skewed, lacks objectivity. It's covered in third person, that it's not clear who attacked it. And it's just unthinkable if a school was attacked, for example, in Israel, or if this was something that Russia had done in Ukraine, the coverage would have been so different. And we've seen so many examples of this.
Ukrainian officials say as many as 90 people were taking shelter in the school's basement.
It shows the mainstream media industry in the US is in the shadows of the foreign policy apparatus in Washington. And it's not just about Iran today or Israel-Gaza. This goes all the way back to, for example, the invasion of Iraq.
And much of the American media frames their coverage around that mentality because war is big business. War sells. War gets eyeballs. And there's a reason why the CBS News and others are pivoting towards a much more hawkish, hardline, pro-Israel, pro-American empire worldview.
This operation, which the Pentagon is calling Epic Fury, is also epically complex. Let's bring in retired Admiral Mark Montgomery, who served 32 years in the Navy as a...
Many American media see it like a video game. That's how they portray it. From the graphics on the screen, to who they speak to interviewing generals, war for them is big business. They love it.
In the battle for American hearts and minds, however, the polls show that Donald Trump is losing, largely because of two questions that plague him. There's one that goes back decades, that Israel is driving U.S. policy. Even Fox News addressed that, lobbing a question at Benjamin Netanyahu, whose chuckling response will have unsettled more Americans than it convinced.
You know, there are people that say, well, the Prime Minister of Israel dragged Donald Trump into it. I want to get your reaction to that.
That's ridiculous. Donald Trump is the strongest leader in the world.
The other narrative is one of Donald Trump's own making, that he is a peace president who would not start new forever wars.
My proudest legacy will be that of a peacemaker and unifier.
But Trump knows that once he starts a war, he won't get that much flack from legacy news outlets, since supporting American wars of the past is part of their legacy. The pushback is coming from independent voices online, and they are attracting audiences from both the liberal left and the MAGA right.
You had Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones on the internet yesterday. They're big, huge right-wing hosts. They were almost near tears. This is really a disaster for their base.
If you're already there saying vote Democrat, what the hell's going on here?
I think you have to vote Democrat in 26, and I'll tell you why.
According to Nick Fuentes, Trump is not doing immigration. He's not standing up to the left, really, and he's basically giving the government to Israel. And you see Marco Rubio in a moment of idiotic candor saying we had to do it because of Israel.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces.
The administration later realized what a flub that was and tried to walk it back, but it was too late.
The pushback that we're seeing is coming from within the Make America Great Again tent, because this isn't what they were sold. Right? They were sold that we wouldn't put our troops in harm's way when we know that this is Israel's war.
Our government's job is not to look out for Iran or for Israel.
So Americans are very aware of what is going on here. Unfortunately, you're not hearing from them much on legacy media.
1 week into this war, what sets it apart, even from something as horrifying as Israel's genocide on Gaza, is the rapid geographical spread of the field of battle. The 8 countries hit since the initial attack on Iran. The more than 1,300 people killed. The key industries, from the oil business to shipping to airline travel, damaged. With international law already exposed in Gaza, now effectively eviscerated. All in just 7 days. News organizations are stretched to their limits, challenged in ways they haven't been before. And the early returns on the journalism do not look promising.
The big strategy here from the Trump administration is just to dizzy all of us. It is very difficult to understand what is going on because it's so chaotic. But we know what this is about. It's about crippling Iran, its infrastructure, its military, crippling it politically. What the U.S. wants out of Iran is not democracy. The United States wants a client state, like it has in Syria, like it has in Lebanon, like it has in other countries. That's what they want in Iran.
The language that much of the Western press uses is we in the West, even if we launch these wars, we are the innocent bystanders. We're just doing our best. It's not easy. Running an empire is very tiring. You know, give us some slack, please, people. But ultimately, the devils are the Hamas leadership of Gaza, the Iranian leadership. It's deeply racist and unacceptable, but not new.
Staying with Iran, the U.S.-Israeli bombing campaign has exposed some sharp divisions among Iranians, both inside the country and across the diaspora. And on Western news outlets, one side of that divide is being amplified far more than the other. Meenakshi Ravi has been tracking the coverage.
One of the most prominent pro-war voices seen across Western media has been Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of the Shah overthrown in the 1979 revolution. Pahlavi has been interviewed across a range of outlets, exposure he has used to boost his political profile. Once the operation began, he appeared on Fox News, praising President Trump and presenting himself as a successor in waiting.
I am leading this transition. I have the support of millions of Iranian people.
A clear pattern has emerged in Western, especially American war coverage. Voices advocating US-Israeli intervention are being given disproportionate airtime. One of the most prominent among them is Iranian activist Masih Alinejad, a polarizing figure.
This is the message that Iranians want me to send to President Trump. Do not leave us alone with this wounded, murderous regime. Finish the job.
The tendency to seek pro-intervention, pro-war voices is not, however, limited to the diaspora. After the BBC aired a segment featuring 3 Iranians in Tehran, all of whom expressed support for the military action, Trita Parsi, an Iranian-born political analyst based in Washington, D.C., had this to say.
Because you had 3 voices from Iran who seem to all be celebrating and happy about the country getting bombed. I'm sure that there are views of that kind, undoubtedly. But to leave the impression that that is the entire viewpoint inside of Iran is getting close to Iraq-level war propaganda and war lies, frankly.
When the United States and its allies go to war, the media ecosystems around them too often fall into line, building narratives and finding voices that help reframe wars of aggression as wars of liberation.
Thanks, Mina. For almost 2.5 years now, the eyes of the world have been trained on the Israeli genocide in Gaza. Now there's the Iran story to contend with. Far too little attention has been paid to another territory where Israel exercises near total control, the occupied West Bank. The Israelis have accelerated their policy of fragmenting the West Bank, chopping it up and annexing more land. Their soldiers have grown more aggressive. The settlers there, shielded by the army, are more emboldened and violent than ever. Refugee camps have been destroyed. More and more Palestinians are being forced from their homes. There are hundreds of new checkpoints and barriers making free movement impossible for citizens and journalists alike. And as in Gaza, Israeli forces have their sights trained on journalists who already do their work under dangerous conditions. One journalist who has covered it all is Amid Shahada, a correspondent for Al Arabi TV. Shahada's reporting is bold, frequently, fearlessly putting him in harm's way. We spoke with Amid Shahada about reporting under fire in the West Bank.
الواقع اليوم في الضفة الغربية من خلال المشاهدات الميدانية وفرض للحكم العسكري الإسرائيلي في كل مناطق الضفة الغربية وتحويل المدى المفتوح خارج القرى الفلسطينية والمدن والبلدات، هذا الشيء أصبح مساحة للمستوطنين. رغم أنه الضفة سجن كبير، إلا أنها صارت عدة سجون صغار داخل السجن الكبير. عميد شحادة التلفزيون العربي، مع التلفزيون العربي من 2019، 7 سنوات من العمل مع التلفزيون العربي في الضفة الغربية. الواحد حس حاله بيغطي بمأساة ما بتنتهي. زمان كانت الأمور متذبذبة، خليني أحكي لك، يوم فرح يوم حزن، يوم دموع يوم حياة، يوم موت يوم ميلاد. اليوم لا، اليوم كل مكان بوصل له بحس إنه في مأساة متواصلة. إذا بدي أرجع لمقترحات تقاريري قبل 7 سنين 6 سنين 5 سنين، كان كل شهر في إشي جميل، إشي جميل، مسرح، فن، ثقافة، إشي له علاقة بالحياة ضمن تقارير تتعلق بالاحتلال، ولكن ما بتغيب هاي الأمور عن الشاشة. اليوم مستحيل يطلع تقرير هيك من الضفة، لأنه ما ضلش. يعني من كثر الألم والموت والأمور الصعبة اللي بيخلقوها المستوطنين وجيش الاحتلال، صار في خجل من الحديث عن مسرحية، عن مهرجان موسيقي، عن شيء جميل جدا بيتعلق بالثقافة. أنا اليوم بحكي معكم ورا ظهري الكاميرات اللي طخها جيش الاحتلال الإسرائيلي أثناء التغطية. 4 مرات نجيت من الموت. بعرفش كيف هيك الواحد بحس إنه يعني بصير أتخيل شو لو كنت أنا واقف. يعني ما بحب أشوفه تحديداً هون. أكثر شيء مؤثر بالنسبة لي في الموضوع لما فتح الباب الجندي، كان في إطلاق نار من الشباك، وفتح الباب بده يتأكد 100%، ورجعوا كمان مرة كملوا. كل خروج للميدان هو محمول بفكرة وداع معينة يومية للعائلة بدون شعارهم بذلك. أنا هيك بتصرف مع بنتي، أنا بطلع عليها زي كأني بطلع على النظرة الأخيرة، وهي حقيقة. فشعوري لما أروح على الميدان في هاي الفترة تعديد، خليني أقول لك بآخر 4 سنوات، هو شعور إنه ممكن ما أرجع.
نعم، اشتباكات مسلحة في هذا؟
كثير بيحكوا إني أنا بغامر وهيك. أنا بفهم شو يعني تغطية الميدان.
اشتباكات
تغطية الميدان إذا ما كانت الصورة قريبة، إذا ما كانت الصورة قريبة من الناس اللي بتعرضوا للهجوم، صعب توصل. أنا عندي قناعة هيك، لهيك أنا بقرب، لهيك أنا بكون وسط الناس اللي بتعرضوا لهجوم، وسط الناس اللي بتعرضوا للخطر. مش إني بغامر، بس هيك الصحافة، يعني هيك أنا بفهم المهنة.
الخلفية أيضا
قبل كنا نشوف الجيش، نغطي انتهاكات الجيش، كان في موت واحد، اليوم في موتين. موت الجيش وخطره، وموت المستوطن وخطره. أصبح اليوم الخطر الأكبر اللي هو المستوطن. ما حدش بيعرف الضربة من وين ممكن تيجي، تحديدا مع المستوطنين. مستوطنين مسلحين، سكاكين، قضبان حديدية، سلاح ناري، مسدسات تحت القمصان. فأنت ما بتعرفي وين ممكن المستوطن يقرر يطلق النار ويقتلك، أو يجي من الخلف ويضرب الواحد على راسه ويموته. هاي تفكير يومي بالنسبة لي. لهيك حتى بالمناطق اللي بنزل لها في الميدان بيكون فيها مستوطنين أو جيش احتلال، حتى خلال التغطية المباشرة أنا كثير بتلفت لورا، إنه بحس إنه ممكن رح أنضرب بأي طريقة، ممكن مستوطن يضربني على راسي من ورا. وصارت مع زملاء صحفيين بتخلي الصحافة تصير تنقل الخبر عن بعد، وهذا أخطر شيء ممكن، أخطر شيء على المعلومة وعلى الصحافة. يوميا أنا بحاول إنه لا، مهما كانت الأمور قصة الناس لازم توصل، بس في صعوبة كبيرة لدرجة ما حد بتخيلها. في صعوبة بالتنقل، في صعوبة بالنزول للميدان، في صعوبة بإظهار الكاميرا أمام مستوطن أو إظهار الكاميرا أمام جندي. في صعوبة كبيرة، وبالتالي صرت أسرق القصة سرقة عشان أحكيها. كنت بشتغل على تقرير في رمون في رام الله، هجوم واسع على المستوطنين، على المزارعين، والمستوطنين اجوا صاروا يدخنوا وانا على الهواء وينفخوا في وجهي، ومسلحين وملثمين واستفزاز، وحدا يدفش هيك بكتفه، حدا يدفش بالم 16 يدفشني في بطني هيك. وشفت الناس شو اللي بتعرضوا له،
عم يدش حدا على العربي.
تكسير بمعنى الكلمة. أي حد بده يزرع تراب راح يتكسر. يضربوهم، يهجموا عليهم، يهجموا على داخل المنازل. آخر تغطية كانت في تلفيت جنوب نابلس، هجوم على المنازل. أحد المنازل فيه عائلة من 8 أفراد، الأب والأم و6 أطفال. أول شغلة منظمين حالهم، كسروا زجاج البيت في حجر. المستوطن الثاني رمى المولوتوف، والثالث أشعل النار. هم بيوزعوا حالهم بهي الطريقة، بيحركوا المنازل والعائلات داخلها. المستوطنين بيقدروا مسلحين وعندهم بيقدروا يطلقوا النار عن بعد على قرية فلسطينية. ممكن نطلق نار على منزل، ممكن يقتل الفلسطيني بإطلاق نار، لا، بخاطر وبتسلل وبسكوا بالبنزين وبحب يولع النار، بيستمتع بإشعال النار بالفلسطينيين. مفارقة هاي للزمن، هذا اللي بشوفه أنا. عندهم عشق لإشعال النار بالفلسطينيين، بممتلكاتهم، مركباتهم، بأجساد الفلسطينيين. في ظل رواية إسرائيلية بديش أقول لك مسيطرة أو قوية جدا في العالم، إنهم هم بيواجهوا الفلسطينيين الوحوش اللي بدهم ياكلوا المستوطنين، وبدهم يقتلوا الجيش، وبدهم يقتلوا الإسرائيليين، وبدهم يقتلوا اليهود. كلام فارغ، كلام فارغ. تحكي عن بيئة مدنية بالمطلق، ناس ضعيفين ما معهم شيء يواجهوا فيه غير إنه يظلوا موجودين بأجسادهم. أمهات تضرب، أطفال يقتلوا، معهم شيء يدافعوا فيه إلا إنه بيحكوا إحنا ما رح نترك أرضنا. وبالتالي هاي الرواية ما بدها، إسرائيل ما بدها هاي الرواية توصل، بدهاش تصل صورة المستوطن المجرم، ما بدها هاي الرواية توصل للعالم، لأنه خلص بدهم يطبعوا بأذهان العالم الفلسطيني هو المجرم وخلاص. وبالتالي المستوطن، عمرك سمعتي في الأخبار مستوطن يحاول تنفيذ عملية طعن؟ عمرك سمعتوا في الأخبار مستوطن نفذ عملية طعن ضد فلسطيني في الخليل؟ أو مستوطن قام بطعن عدد من الفلسطينيين في المغير؟ صارت في 4 فلسطينيين انطعنوا، ما حدا حكى عملية طعن. أنا شفت مستوطنين بيحملوا سيوف من العهد الحجري، بده يقاتل بالسيف. أنت متخيل كيف؟ ولا عمرنا سمعنا بالأخبار مستوطن نفذ عملية طعن. ما بنسمعهاش الصحافة العالمية. للأسف رواية جيش الاحتلال والرواية الإسرائيلية هي اللي طاغية على الصحافة الأجنبية. هذا اللي احنا بنشوفه. بتضفي الأمور صعبة جدا جدا، ضفي فيها ما حدش في العالم بيحكي عنها، لأنه الحرب فيها متواصلة. دائما المستوطنين والاحتلال بفكر شو بده يعمل فيها بمدن الضفة وبناس اللي بيعيشوا في الضفة الغربية، كيف ممكن يعذبهم أكثر. هي منطقة غير محسوبة، لا بهدنة ولا محسوبة بوقف إطلاق نار، ولا العالم بينتبه لها. إنه خلص أكثر من 3.5 ملايين فلسطيني بيعيشوا في الضفة الغربية، ولا عمر شملتهم هدنة، فيش هدنة لهم.
And finally, back to Iran and the branding of the U.S. military operation there as Operation Epic Fury. Did the Pentagon consider how easy it would be for its critics online to take that name and mess with it? To just turn it into Operation Epic Chaos or Epic Failure? And given that so many Americans see the attack on Iran as a way to distract attention away from another story that poses an existential threat to Donald Trump's presidency, why would the administration sign off on a name that could be so simply morphed into Operation Epstein Fury? The people at the White House can bombard Americans with messaging until the cows come home. But in the age of the internet, there will be return fire. And in this case, it landed.